What's up guys, it's Salvajee. Here is my Anthem 1 month in review. I am of course calling it my 1 month in review because I am counting the worldwide launch of Anthem as the official launch, not the early access launch, as the official launch. So I wanted to make this video and I wanted to make this series because I think as consumers we have a right to know whether we're going to be getting our money's worth when it comes down to a game, specifically a live service game that is constantly evolving and is constantly changing. As someone that plays Anthem pretty frequently and makes a lot of videos on it, I have sort of seen the evolution that this game has gone through in this past couple of months. So let's ask the question, should you get Anthem? I'm going to be of course pointing out a couple of the things that you should know to make your purchasing decision, but I'm going to start off the video off my opinion. I don't think you should buy Anthem yet if you are thinking about buying this game, because this game still has a couple of obstacles to overcome. So when it comes down to the gameplay in Anthem is still amazing. I mean, quite honestly, it's the best looter shooter gameplay that I have ever experienced, period. And in my opinion, that's one of the reasons why the game is still going and has a strong fan base, because it's true. You cannot get any better gameplay in any looter shooter game at all. Like, Anthem has the best gameplay, at least in my eyes and the eyes of many people out there. The satisfaction that you get when you land a combo or when you coordinate with your teammates to take out a high priority target on the higher levels of play, it's just amazing, right? And the variety of builds and the variety of specific strategies that you can apply, it's just pretty amazing, okay? But there is one thing that you should know if you are getting Anthem. If you're going into the game expecting a lot of loot and expecting a lot of progression, not a lot of progression, just some basic progression in general, like common sense progression that every single looter shooter has had, like Destiny and the Division 2 and the Division. Simply put, Anthem has no progression at all whatsoever. In fact, it has been proven multiple times that progression in Anthem is mathematically against you. Sometimes I get 8 Masterwork items by completing a Grandmaster 2 Stronghold, and yet none of these Masterwork items make any progression at all towards the many builds that you can have in the game. Now, if you're a casual player and you only play for 30 minutes every day, you should absolutely get Anthem then, because the loot and progression system isn't really going to be a problem for you for a very long time. But if you're a hardcore looter shooter fan, if you're someone that likes to grind, if you're someone that likes progression, Anthem doesn't really have that at all whatsoever. And instead of just dropping that statement, I will actually drop a lot of articles in the description of this video that in a lot of detail explain why progression in Anthem is mathematically against you and why it is a fact that progression in Anthem is next to no existence. Many times in Anthem, I get a lot of Masterwork items and I get some legendary items from time to time, but all of them have terrible stat rolls. Now, Bioware said that they are fixing the loot and progression system, but they said that they're going to be only taking small steps towards the loot and progression system, which I guess you could say makes sense, right? However, they also said that these changes were going to be taking a few months to actually come into the game, which is again one of the reasons why I wanted to make this series for Anthem. Because as a consumer, you need to know if your money is worth it or not, whether you should invest your money in this game or not. And if you're a hardcore looter shooter fan that wants progression, you should absolutely not spend your money in this game, at least as of yet, because they just haven't gotten one of the core fundamental values of looter shooter right, and that is of course loot and progression. To make things a little bit worse, they actually increase loot drop rates at the higher levels of play, like Grandmaster 2 and Grandmaster 3. But unlike games like Destiny and the Division 2, where it's just common sense to have gear requirements for the higher levels of play, Anthem has no gear requirements at all whatsoever. Basically what this means is that if you're doing a high level mission, you can have low level players load into that high level mission and basically make the high level mission a complete pain in the ass, to put it bluntly. It's a really not enjoyable experience, and Bioware didn't even say that they're working on fixing this on the latest developer stream. So if you're also looking to have a nice, fair endgame experience where you have teammates that can handle themselves, Anthem doesn't really offer that at the moment. Now, 1 month after its release, the loading screens in Anthem aren't really that long. I mean, I have the game on a hard drive and the loading screens aren't that bad, but there are a lot of loading screens. However, with next week's packs, they have already eliminated one loading screen from the game, and hopefully in the future they can eliminate as many loading screens as possible. That would be pretty amazing. However, personally, I don't really think that's going to happen because Anthem is a game that is very, very demanding, but of course one can only dream. When it comes down to bugs, there are a lot of bugs still in the game. A lot of the bugs that are in the game are in the quick play game mode, and you need to play a total of 25 quick play matches if you want to complete a challenge that you get at the end of the game, and quick play is still basically unplayable. However, on next week's patch, apparently they have a couple of changes to make quick play better. When it comes down to endgame content, the game is pretty Gucci, honestly. It has 3 strongholds, it has legendary contracts that you can also do every day. The legendary contracts always feel very similar. Yes, the gameplay and what you're going to be doing in the gameplay is pretty much the same. Either kill enemies, hold an objective, or of course get specific relics or echoes, etc, etc. But that's pretty much every looter shooter in a nutshell, right? In these looter shooter games, it isn't a lot about the content, but how it is that you approach the content. And thanks to the multiple builds that you have in Anthem, you can approach the content in multiple ways. And that's another reason why I've been sticking with the game, honestly. It's true, I can't make any sort of progression at all with my builds at all whatsoever. But if I want to have a good time and I want to approach gameplay in a specific way, Anthem definitely has the answer to do that. But that's pretty much it when it comes down to endgame content. We're going to be getting legendary missions next week, so I can't really talk about that because I haven't played that yet after 1 month of the game's release. And we also have, of course, the 3 strongholds, which are pretty unique and pretty awesome experiences. Anyways, now let's talk about the story, because apparently Anthem is an ever-evolving world where the story is always continuing. 1 month after its release, the story in Anthem is still extremely underwhelming. It has a shitty ending. Don't worry, I'm not going to put any spoilers, but the point is, you're not going to be getting an actual Bioware story with Anthem. A lot of characters are going to develop within the story, but believe it or not, some NPCs in the game that are not valuable to the story at all whatsoever have actual better backstories than some of the people in the actual main story of the game. So if you're looking for a Bioware story, you might want to hold off your money. Maybe in the future when we get like a story update in the game, you might want to, of course, slap your cash on the table. But that's pretty much it, guys. That's everything you need to know about Anthem 1 month after its release. I'm gonna let you guys decide whether you want to purchase the game or not with all of the information that I have given you guys. With that said, I will be seeing you guys, of course, on my next video. I have a storm positioning guide dropping later today, so be on the lookout for that, and I'll be seeing y'all on the next one. Peace.